in for another breakdown of the game going on currently between John Urschel and the world over on Chess.com. Things are heating up, and just like John's pink shirt, as we welcome him on here, the color is red on the board. It's as John corrected me before we went live here. It's not really pink. It's kind of just another shade of red. Isn't that right?
It's a lighter shade of red.
It's a lighter shade of red. Well, it's going to be dark red on the board here pretty soon because we are now officially out of theory. There will be blood, I think, soon. John's nervous. I know you can't tell through that massive physique of his, but he's getting nervous. Okay. Did you paint that painting, behind you yourself?
I did, in fact. I painted it yesterday.
You know what? That doesn't surprise me at all because that's the kind of thing you would do. All right. But we're going to jump right in here. I actually haven't even invited John to the board yet, so I'm doing that right now.
There we go.
We are analyzing this together like birds of a feather. And, so the scary part, I'm going to jump to the live position, John, as we take a look at, actually the current live position is this, though we are expecting the world to naturally retreat their bishop to safety. The scary thing is we've now crossed over, right? We're now in uncharted territories officially, uncharted waters, because the legal resources available, reminding all the viewers that, of course, none of you would ever use an illegal resource, because I believe in humanity. The legal resources.
I'm not so convinced, but I
yeah,
appreciate
he's not as convinced, but I'm going to believe our members are only using clean resources, which means now we are all completely on our own. No, you're not allowed to use any engines or any sort of live evaluation tool. We all know that. So the legal resources being databases, what other players have done, books, these sort of things, John, none of that is going to be helpful anymore because the moment you played queen to d1, which I believe was the correct move, we're going to dive into the analysis here, was the moment you pushed us into uncharted territory correctly. And let's talk about why queen to d4 that was kind of being predicted, and at first is I think maybe the natural way you would consider playing the position. Why is this move not so great for white? Why don't you tell everybody?
Well, e5
E5.
is a serious issue. Although, I guess I should have mentioned this to you. I know you brought this up that you thought e5 was a big issue.
Yeah?
Hess thought it was fine.
Bobby Hess disagreed with me?
Hess thought that e5 wasn't even black's best move there.
Oh man, I really don't agree. I think after knight takes e5, the key is that after bishop to c5, black gains a tempo regardless of where the queen retreats. Black can probably take on e5 right away.
Yeah.
Or even in some cases just get castled, and this position gets absolutely just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that black ends up winning back material by taking on e5 and pinning the piece to the king.
Right.
And I spent a lot of time analyzing this, and I was nervous. So I definitely guided our team towards.
I appreciate the guidance, and note that Hess also agreed with your recommendation.
And so Bobby must have thought that probably black is just playing bishop g6 to safety.
Well, yeah, he thought that was a better move, I believe, but he thought that queen d1 was also best.
Right.
But for some reason, he did not. E5 did not phase him.
Well, even if black plays bishop g6, the point is that, okay, you can remove the threat. The point is that this situation is more dangerous along the lines of what you were nervous about, right? Like if you create a position where you have to get castled long, now you have the bishop here, the queen's on the c file, there's threats of b4. So just for example, a move like castles long would be met immediately by e5 again.
Yeah.
There's threats of bishop takes a3, there's threats of b4. And this is the kind of position where things could go seriously wrong for white with the king getting in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So whether e5 is agreed by me and Robert as the best move immediately, I felt that black could probably risk this, or bishop g6 comes first. I think that the queen is surprisingly more of a target here in the center than she is, a dominant piece, right? Mm-hmm. But now that we've Tarantino'd today's session, and we've foreshadowed for people that we are currently facing this position, expecting bishop to g6, and we're going to talk about where we think the game is going, and I'm gonna I really want to get your thoughts on how you want to handle this position, because we have, I think, some stylistic decisions to make, which is rare this early. Usually I feel like there's a best approach, and whether you like it or not, that whole lecture I gave you last time, right, about not playing toward your style, but being willing to play the best thing in the position, even if it's a little uncomfortable. I think here we actually have some different decisions we can make here and how we want to approach this. But let's back up. We Tarantoed it. Let's go back to where we left off. After knight of 3, bishop g4 was played. And what was your thinking here when the world played this?
What was my thinking?
Yeah.
Naturally, just h3. Just move him away. I think that's. I think we were both kind of glad.
Yeah, you remember the last video. That's why I was asking what you were thinking. I didn't know if you got excited.
We were glad to play bishop g4 because, well, initially I thought it gave us some really kind of options for some sharp lines that were kind of in the theory. And then when we kind of got to the point where they played the b5 move, we started looking at some things, and you sent me some games, and I looked at some games in ChessBase, and some of the moves like knight takes b5, queen d4, we were looking at how these things went.
Right.
And
starting with this position here, yeah.
Yeah, starting with this position, knight takes b5 is something that actually happened a lot in games. But I was looking at it, and I was looking at it with Hess some, and just thinking about it, and it doesn't seem like there's enough compensation there.
Right. It's scary because, and it's sort of principled. Whenever there's a sacrifice that is kind of taking advantage of something that seems to be weak in the opponent's position, usually it is something you can justify, right? So we sack a piece to keep the initiative here. Black would have had to retreat the bishop. And natural aggressive moves like knight e5, they come to mind. If we get another move, we'll play bishop to g2, and it seems scary, but I think accurate play by Black, including a move like bishop e4 that immediately prevents bishop g2. And if I'm right, wasn't there a game that actually followed this line, I think?
Yeah, they win rook g1.
Yeah, rook g1, and then Black has a few options. E6 is a natural move to try to get developed, but even knight to d5, which I don't even remember if it was played or not, but it was a move that kind of scared me for hitting the bishop.
Yeah.
Then there were some crazy lines that went like knight takes c3, and the gloves start to come off a little bit, because if you take it, this guy falls. And maybe it wasn't exactly in this line, but I was on the same page that it felt like
crazy things happen. I think we can
crazy things happen.
All the games were crazy, and they reached these like crazy end games through all these things, and it was just very, very dirty.
Right. It's tempting, right? Because if you think about it, it's a piece sack that is going to take a while for Black to fully coordinate. And one thing you have to evaluate when you get, and now I'm going into general chess advice mode, but this will help for future games, like when you're evaluating let's just say not just piece sacrifices, but piece imbalances. Maybe sometimes it's an exchange sacrifice, a rook for a knight or bishop, or maybe sometimes it's two pieces for a rook. The key thing to evaluate is who's getting the initiative often, and if you can keep the initiative, because the points themselves, right? Quote Dr. Evil quotation fingers. The points themselves are now less relevant than the ability to execute your plan and to keep threats. And so, like, it's tempting because White basically has 3 passed pawns, right? And the immediate pressure, and Black is several moves away from completing development. But the real, I think, defining factor is passed pawns, unless they're far advanced, will never really be able to compete pound for pound with a piece. They're tempting because they just look so sexy and cute right there. Oh man, there's nobody in the way. That's going to be hard to stop. But really, they're a long ways away from doing anything. And so unless passed pawns are far advanced, you should usually not value them over a piece. And so then the question is, well, what about the other part, our initiative, our pressure on the position, right? And so really, to me, the defining factor is because there's no real way to increase the pressure, that makes the piece sacrifice just way too risky, because the pressure and the initiative would be the way to really justify this sacrifice. And if White castle's long, the a2 pawn hangs. And wait, here you can't even do it. Let's just say after e6, like a2 is falling, and you're still not even threatening to win a piece here because Black actually has enough defenders. if you try to go all out, free for all, like I'm going to get a queen right away, there's immediate threats to just start winning back material. So I looked at the position and just started seeing things like that, and I'm like, this is just not worth the risk, right?
Mm.
Okay, but let's back up again, because I want to know. So we talked about this position, and we said we thought that if bishop g4, h3, bishop h5, this idea was key to gain this tempo on the bishop and make it go back to h5. Do you remember why?
Why the tempo was?
Yeah, like why was it, like, for example, we talked about this being a risky line for black because of exactly what you did. And do you remember what it was about this retreat that we felt was good for us?
I know it got pressure on the queen side
Uh-huh.
via, moves like queen a4, bishop f4.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Basically what you did, right?
yeah.
And the key is that because this bishop has been removed from this diagonal, any tactics and pressure you get on the queenside like squares are much stronger than they ever were previously. So that's why this tempo was so useful, and that's why what we did, I think, is accurate. Remember, black can't play b5 here, right? Remind everybody at home.
Right, because of the tactic, we can take on b5 with the
Either,
knight or the
with
bishop.
any piece, right? And the game is winning.
Yeah.
So I felt like what you did was 100% accurate. You played h3 to remove the bishop from this useful diagonal.
Then bishop.
You gave this check.
Yeah.
And then you followed through with the pattern we talked about that was kind of a recurring theme of white taking advantage of the queen being on the fourth rank, gain the tempo,
Yeah.
and then and look to keep the initiative going.
Yeah.
Now here was what?
I know we didn't talk about this next move before I made
G4,
it.
yeah.
The softball game, but I was looking at things that were done in previous games with this, and I thought that G4 was strong here. The other move that comes up is just knight E5 immediately.
Yeah, and I was going to say that at the end of our last video, I'm pretty sure we had this position on the board at some point as a possibility that could have happened, and we talked about this knight E5 move being kind of a key follow up in these positions. It does obvious things, puts pressure on the D7 knight, and it maybe actually also keeps the threat of G4 alive. But the one thing I like about it versus what we did at G4 is that the immediate insertion of a piece to E5 completely removes all potential tactics of black ever getting E5. So one of the lines that can occur with B5 and queen to D4 is consistently doing pretty well for white. And I think the main tactical difference is that black doesn't have the ability to open up things and get this bishop into the battle with tempo. So when we played G4, it's interesting because again, you said I was at my kid's baseball game.
Yeah, I was going solo.
You were going solo, and there's nothing wrong with G4 at all. We're still completely in the thick of it, and we have plenty of chances. But once you play G4, you definitely, we're definitely pot committed now to like kind of an aggressive game because, G4 is a move that we can't take back, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're forever in a position where the king will never really find safety on the king side. We're kind of aggressively setting the tone for the game, which I like that you were willing to do that because I think that you were hesitant at first to kind of go down that line and right? No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm embracing it, man. I'm
what?
just,
yeah.
I'm going all in.
I think probably in hindsight, the issue is that G4 actually scores better in the database than knight E5, but it's sort of misleading because there are less games with G4, and the majority of those games, black played bishop G6, which was often followed by, guess what, knight E5, right? And for the record, moves like bishop E4 are, what was the tactic? Can we just take on D7? If knight takes, we get the bishop. If queen takes, we trade in castles.
I don't think there was an immediate tactic here. I think
just rook to G1 or something.
Rook to G1, and continue.
And just continue. And the difference again is that in all these lines, B5 can now safely be met by queen to D4, maintaining this queen as a dominant piece in our center without any of these worries.
Right.
So a post-mortem game where we're allowed to use the engine, which I think is something we'll do. Maybe what we'll do is we'll analyze this together with the computer, and after everything is said and done, and maybe see what the difference is in the evaluation between a position, like this versus a position where we play queen to d4 in the way that we could have with b5 and allow e5. And I'm convinced that black is getting a big initiative here, and I'm convinced this is the big reason why we shouldn't have played queen to d4. But this whole thing is really instructive, because I think one of the positional things you and I talked about when we first started was that, for white's long-term advantages are the pawn majority on the queen side,
Yes.
currently like a lead in development and the pressure that's coming with that. But black has this potential of having the only pawn in the center. Remember our whole Nimzovich thing, right? That once you get that only pawn in the center, pawns in the center restrict minor pieces because they control avenues, right? Open highways, right? We call the open files and diagonals of the center, the freeways of the chessboard, right? These are the high speed freeways where pieces move and transfer themselves quickly across the board. So when someone gets that sort of space, and if they can justify it tactically, that would be where black is going to get his advantage in this position. So when we play g4, I think we're going to get a line now where with queen to d1, because we were worried about e5, where that struggle I sort of highlighted to begin with is going to be really prevalent. Like we want to develop quickly here. I think we need to fix the problem of our knight being on the edge as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. And we need to keep our eye out for black striking aggressively in the center and making sure that we're ready to deal with that, basically. So coming full circle now to the live position, what are your candidate moves for us here?
Okay. So for me, I think there's really only, I've looked at things, and maybe this is too simplistic. I think there's one move that just screams like we should do it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's bishop g2. Okay. It's the only piece that isn't developed. I think g2 is a natural home for it. We, don't have any real other great places to put it, I don't think. Like d3, I'm not a fan of. Because,
mainly why?
Because of the other bishop.
Okay. So you feel like the exchange of these light square bishops is not favorable for us?
No, I like a light squared bishop on that long diagonal, which is wide open. Like, wide open. There's, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So yep. I feel like our light squared bishop is stronger there than their light squared bishop. Mm-hmm. E2, bishop E2 is kind of just really passive.
Yeah.
It's not doing anything.
Would really not make sense to create these holes and then not fill them, right? I agree with that.
And even if the bishop's on d3 and they don't take, like, what's our bishop doing?
Right.
So I think bishop g2 is where that bishop should be. And when I look at our position, I mean, I know it's simplistic, but I think the bishop needs to get developed. And I think that's a good place to put it. And if we do decide to castle our king, I think that actually firms up the king side for a short side castle. Mm-hmm. If that's something we do down the line. Okay.
I love it. I love every single thing that just came out of your mouth. It was beautiful. You're like a poet.
I love it. Glad. I'm just trying to make you proud, man.
I do think there are some other candidate moves here, and maybe just in the interest of me wanting to talk more, I guess that's a problem I have. I'm working on it, seeing a therapist. Not just in the interest of me wanting to provide more teaching opportunities. I do think there are some other things to look at. I think knight to c2 is a serious candidate move. That's my option 1B to go after bishop g2.
So my thoughts on knight c2 is I think it's a good place to put him, but I really wasn't going to move the knight there until they press us with like e6.
Well, and see again, notice like my whole perspective from the beginning has been a little bit more, not necessarily, I've been encouraging you to be aggressive, but I've been cautious of the potential of them not playing e6, but rather shoving the tactics through more forcefully with e5. So, for example, the thing that I've been calculating on bishop g2 is e5 followed by some sort of like capture on 8. Is this a possibility? I don't know.
Yeah.
But we have to calculate this if we're going to play bishop g2, because how do we evaluate this position? Let's do a little thinking in our head.
Okay. Let's think.
So currently we're down a piece, but we have the rook on a8 hanging, the bishop on a3 hanging, and then and there's obviously these trades in the center. So it's a mess.
So the first thing that jumps out at me here would be knight takes g6. Let me think about this.
To remove the
light squared bishop.
And to get rid of the potential of that knight being vulnerable there.
Yeah.
That's not bad, because, for example, if you take here, the real problem with this is that you can't block with the queen because this, but if you don't block with the queen, I win this piece here.
And we got serious problems.
Well, I don't even know. I mean, that's the thing. This is still an absolute mess. I mean, now we have a position where, theoretically, white is up the exchange, but am I happy to play this position as white? I mean, hardly. I feel like I'd rather be black here. I feel like the king not being able to castle, very dangerous, right?
Yeah.
That's the difficulty of us being, we're really trying to analyze this as human players. You have to rely a little bit on your intuition, and we can't just, calculate it all the way to the end, right? We're not an engine. But that's scary. So that means I like your move, knight takes g6, at least as something we should consider. So if they take it and we just take back, this is actually a fun position to think about. Now we got two sexy bishops.
Yeah.
We got threats to capture on a8, which they have to deal with first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
My thinking is, if they have to protect the rook, are we not threatening things like queen e2 check to ruin his right to castle? And then we, for example, like rook c8 is not a move for black. Rook c1 wins on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Queen e2 check is a move, or sorry, queen c4 check is a move, but we have two options. We can crossfire check and force a trade. Who's better in this endgame? Two bishops versus two knights. We have doubled a pawns, but I would take white in this position any day.
No, doubled a pawns are weak, but I take us on that.
Yeah, I mean, we love this, right? We've got threats. We probably fight over the c file if we get this kind of endgame. This is something we should be open to getting. Is some kind of endgame where, as you highlighted, the bishops can come to life on our diagonals, right?
Right.
So let's go back to this. Bishop takes a3, knight takes g6. Are there any other moves for black?
Let's see. Let me think. Did we calculate through bishop takes b2 already?
The only thing I realize is that it would be great if they did this, and then we would ask them to. We have them resigning the next move. We got them in a trap.
Oh, right.
It's actually mate in two.
Well
Look how
done.
sexy that is, right?
Well done, Mr. Rensch.
Hashtag ring the bell right there. So let's hope that they. No, I mean, so that would be nice. And in fact, seeing that makes me realize I think knight takes. I think your suggestion knight takes g6 is critical. And after they take back, do we have anything better than what we've already suggested of just taking a3?
Okay, let me look. Give me 20 seconds to think.
Go for it. You can have all day. We want these videos to be as long as possible, so that your buddy Matt Schaub has something to watch in his time off.
Exactly.
So we know he's looking for a job right now, and he's probably playing chess. Is Matt on Chess.com?
I don't know. I should ask him. I don't think he is, though.
He's probably going to have his feelings hurt that I just called him out about his job search, but
that's all right, man.
Soon he'll get signed somewhere.
I will be unemployed at some point too. Let's see. We have the option here of we can think about starting with queen e2.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an option we have.
Yeah, we can throw in the check intermezzo, but
the check first, then
the thing that gets scary to me is not him running to f8 or even blocking, because if he blocks, we might have bishop d6. But I think he might flip the script on us and return the favor, freeing the e file.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Uh,
it seems like unnecessarily dangerous.
all right. Let me think about other alternatives. Uh,
I think we might just want to take back. I mean, I wasn't trying to like test you as if I had some sort of hidden.
oh,
I
okay.
don't.
Because I got nothing. Okay.
I don't know if it. I was just having a conversation. I was like, I don't. Do
Okay.
we have anything better to do? Like, I don't.
I was sensing a test, but
Right? No, I'm
I
sorry. I
was
should
thinking, wait,
clarify that from now on.
um,
Although I do appreciate that you always assume you're being tested. It's like Morpheus and Neo.
yeah, exactly.
Um,
So, can I ask wait, can we go back for a second?
yep.
So, what's uh, what's wrong with taking the rook on A8?
I think the main point is that he just takes back. The world just takes back with a tempo, and so
And then we
now we don't
castle.
even have the time to grab the bishop, right? And the best case scenario for us, he's getting two pieces for a rook.
Right. Okay.
So, um, and when you were as you were talking about how much you wanted to play bishop g2, and I was listening, and you made all great points. Like this is partly what that main line was what I was calculating was that e5 again to back up show everybody we're calculating bishop g2 is our main move John wants to play. I'm worried about the strike of e5, which you always have to calculate moves that you feel are principled to your opponent strategically anyway, right? You can't so like that's a good thing for your own games, John. That like notice how like in a lot of our lines you keep coming back. You know Black's going to play e6, and you're just ready for him to do it. As soon as he does, you're going to move the knight to safety because it's Whereas, but you have to remember like if the principled thing Black would ideally want is actually more control over the center, you can't dismiss those moves as much as at first they might be. Wait, you can't do that. I just take it, right? Well, I don't know. I mean, you got to make sure that the tactics are calculated. When there's a principled idea behind it, right? It's like I used to use the phrase that Tim Gunn would say, make it work, designers. Did you ever watch Project Runway?
Can't say I have.
Make it work, designers. That's too bad. Has Louisa ever watched Project Runway?
She's not here, but I don't know.
Okay,
Is it might be
my
maybe.
wife, okay, that's a married thing, so she would, but it's actually really good that the point is like when you're forced with a situation, you have to make it work, and
Right.
sometimes people actually don't calculate tactics accurately enough, or say this, they don't push themselves to make the tactics work for a principled idea. Once
Hmm.
you commit to like, all right, this is my goal in the position. Like if I had my way, this would be it. Yes, it doesn't seem like it works now, but it needs to always be on the forefront of what you're calculating because there may be tactical resources that justify a move that otherwise you dismissed. So
Hmm.
you have to try to make it work. Tactics work for the strategy. That's what Botvinnik said, right? Tactics are the servant of strategy, not the other way around. So you have to make tactics work for you, and they don't work until you calculate them. So,
Okay.
but
All right.
that's
Let's go
just
back to this.
yeah, so let's come back to this. So knight takes e5, bishop takes a3. I feel like your idea of knight takes g6 is saving the day.
Okay. Now let's.
I mean, we have to go. Let's go for this endgame again, and not assume that
Okay.
we're just right that this is okay. I mean, because this is kind of scary, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm suggesting king f1. I mean, do you want to play bishop g2? But it's not like we're going to win the exchange anyway. He always has a way to check out of it.
Yeah.
But maybe that is better because now we can play queen e2 and actually force the
Now,
endgame.
yeah. Now we got something good.
If we force this endgame, like, I mean, okay, wait, maybe I'm playing bad moves. Maybe Black should move the rook because we probably have to take, right? So that would, whenever you have a game of chicken staring contest, always make your opponent blink first.
Uh, well, wait. What? I don't.
Well, it's an improvement for Black because if we go for the endgame now, we're actually activating his knight into some really important
No, no, but
squares.
why do we have to take?
Well, what else are we doing?
Let's see. If they want to put that rook on c8, we can put our rook on c1.
Yeah, we
Uh,
can continue to play chicken.
yeah, we can do that, but I haven't calculated this through yet. But
Let's say if rook c1, Black castles. In doing so, he
uh,
unpins the queen and protects the rook at the same time.
and now, yeah, now we're in. Now
We're
we've got.
probably forced to go for something similar anyway, where we're going to have to take on e5.
Yeah. No,
So,
that's
so
true.
I feel like our best time is spent evaluating that anyway, because our initial instincts were that this endgame of two bishops for the knights were good for us, right?
Yeah.
So is black getting super active with knights in the center enough to change our evaluation? Is it that big? Maybe it's not. I mean, maybe we can play the position still, and
Yeah.
we still feel like we have decent chances, but I don't know. Personally, I feel like that active knight really bothers me. I mean, I'm looking at like rook c2. I'm looking at knight c4. If rook c2, we have rook c1 though. I mean, that's delicious. He'd have to trade and give us the c file, so that's no bueno. So the truth is, rook c2 is not a real threat. Probably we should worry about our king. If black just got castled in an endgame like this and tried to put a rook on e8 and expose our king on e2.
Yeah.
Um, but let's see, castles, rook h to c1. He plays rook e8, trade town on c8, followed by trade town with the other rook coming to c1. Simplification town is in our favor, I think. I think if pieces come off the board,
Yeah.
what do you think?
So I think if I look at this position here, if we take the rooks off the board, I think we're very strong.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Very strong. The question is, can they make our king on e2 weak? They castle, they put the rook on e8.
Mm-hmm. Will we get in trouble in those lines, eh?
Are there tactics there?
Right. But
Yeah.
I'm feeling better about our chances more and more. I mean, I feel like castles. I feel like this comes fast enough. You know.
Right. Before they can even put the rook on e8.
So maybe they have a strong move that we're taking for granted. Maybe they keep the rooks on the board, like you said.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's really irritating, actually. Right?
What?
That's really irritating for us.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Attacking. Yeah.
A3 attacking d2, threatening rook e8 check. That's actually no bueno. Huh. You can play a position like this and kind of be worse and just kind of like, all right, so we've stopped all critical threats and we're kind of holding the endgame, but we're losing the bishop pair somewhere along the way here in order to keep our king safe.
Right.
That worries me. Let's back up a little bit. So let's see. So the evaluation of this line started with our desire. Just good to take stock, right? So our desire is to play bishop g2. It is the most natural developing move. If we don't want to waste the tempo securing this knight, we don't have to. We want to get castled. So philosophically, we have principles behind the move we're trying to justify tactically, right?
Okay. So let's think through this for a sec. I think bishop g2 is looking strong. I think we're still working out plans for e5 against e6. Knight c2 is very natural.
Yep. One thing to keep in mind, I just want to have it on your radar, is consider this move as a possibility in some ways to meet bishop to
Okay.
meet e6. I'm not even sure that the dark square bishop favors us immediately,
Yeah.
but if it guaranteed insertion of the queen here, it might. So anyway, that's something to keep in mind as well. But yes, so go back to what you're saying, knight c2, don't want to interrupt your thought, and then what are you thinking?
Okay. Well, now I'm trying to let me see. From there, I'm thinking about ideas of things like knight d4.
Mm-hmm. Or bishop e4.
Bishop what?
Or bishop e4 for black. You're talking for black, right?
Oh, what they're doing. No, I was just thinking about plans for myself.
Ah, got it.
Yeah, I mean, just I was thinking about plans, less actual lines.
Right.
Activating the knight, opening that diagonal. Uh, think about castling, actually. Um, yeah, okay. What moves do they have? Knight d5. looks like a good
Hmm.
prospect.
Yeah, I think
Bishop e4, you're right, looks like a good
both
prospect.
of these moves have to be on our radar.
Yeah, those both look very strong. Also, maybe this isn't an obvious thing, but I'm also at some point bishop c5 with intentions on, castling
Hmm.
because I think that's the best place for them to put their bishop. It's putting pressure on our f2 pawn.
Now that we're here to
Yeah.
calculate concretely, I actually worry about this line. What are we doing on knight d5?
So we got to worry about our bishop there.
Hmm. And you see, I actually have a double threat here. If you move the bishop, I have knight takes c3, which is a shot in the dark, but potentially devastating.
Uh,
Black is just winning back the piece on c2.
I'm not. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm following. Uh, yeah, that's okay.
Kind of irritating, right?
No, that is quite irritating. Uh, hmm. So then if they go knight d5, let's see.
Couple options. We'd have to
So we got to protect in some way. We
hmm
could, so just off the top of my head, things like queen d2, bishop e5, uh, bishop d2, I'm not a fan of, but uh,
if it's necessary. Yeah,
yeah,
queen d2 is off because we're losing a piece. The queen is overloaded.
right, okay.
Um, Bishop
So let me,
e5 is not our favorite move. We don't want to lose the bishop pair. Do we want to lose that dark square bishop?
no, we don't, but if we put the bishop to d2, now our queen has become
Hmm.
just
I
useless.
agree. Bishop d2 doesn't feel ideal either, which makes me think that probably what we're doing here is we're calculating a line that we shouldn't be going for. If this happens, we might have to justify bishop d6.
Okay.
Because the more I'm calculating that, the more I'm truly nervous about. I mean, those moves were all pretty forced, right? We played
Yeah.
bishop g2. If they played here to gain a tempo, well, we
Yeah,
don't want them to take. So if we're going for knight c2, this looks pretty rough. I mean,
right. And
I don't see.
bishop d2 and bishop e5, neither of those are moves we like.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
probably if I had to choose between the poisons, I'd probably prefer this over giving up my dark squares. But you're right. We're going to spend the next 5 moves unwinding our inactive minor pieces, right? Our inactive minor. So I
I
agree with
think
you. It's not
I think
ideal.
that's better there. Okay.
So can we justify this if they play e6? I think we probably can.
Okay, let me just think about what they can do. Um, if they go, let me think. Okay, I can't see fault in it. I mean,
Yeah,
I'll
man.
think about it more once we get off of here, but I can't see fault with that at the
Yeah, I'm
moment.
wondering if we got here and they tried to trade and dislodge the queen. I mean, this is solid, right?
Yeah,
You know, if they castle, like maybe we even have tactics immediately. These are the lines I was calculating, like overloading them. But even if we don't, this seems plenty fine. Um, so let me play devil's advocate to your thought process. Remember, in the end, you're the boss. I'm just the coach.
right. So you're thinking about knight c2 first? Is that
So coming back to it, another reason why I was thinking about knight c2 first was if you want, if we want to keep the dark square bishop and avoid those lines, knight c2, I think avoids all the tactics of this, unless I'm just maybe they can justify a pawn sack anyway, but I don't think it's as attractive because they're just down a pawn here. Or are they? Man, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's weird tactics all over the place anyway. I like this is engine chess right here. You'd have to be willing to really play, all out here. This is balls
so?
to the
I
wall,
think
man.
one of the things where we're talking about style,
Yeah.
I know you're very, trusting of the world. I'm not. I do not want to play engine chess because I am fairly certain we will lose.
Yeah, well, we're probably, you're probably going to have to, we're probably facing that anyway. But what we have to do is continue to push ourselves anyway to just take the approach we believe is best and calculate as accurately as we can. Um, Remember, okay, so let's go back to Bishop G2 one more time. So let's look at this one more time. So that means we're ready.
Hmm.
We are ready, Freddy, to justify this line. We're not going to go for this anymore, but King F1. And I like this a lot more because, see, now they have to deal with the rook. Remember, again, they can't go here. They lose. They
Right?
can't go here, by the way. By the way, what are they doing with the rook? I guess they have to go here.
Yeah.
But then it's like, again, we have all kinds of goodness here. We have like checks and then like gain a tempo on the queen. This looks phenomenal. Almost too good to be true. So I feel more and more confident that you're right that we can justify Bishop G2 tactically. So I'm going to guess that what we're going to face after Bishop G2 is actually this move. Just like we're going to kind of bring our analysis to a close here, but my intuition says that this is an idea we may need to have maybe we need to have another quick video a little faster than we did last time. This feels like, or let's talk about it here because this seems like another thing we have to be ready for. The advantage is what? If you castle, they may just increase the battery immediately, making it really irritating that there's no way at some point we're not going to have to just like offer a trade, and not. This is, that's
Okay, so let's think about not castling immediately.
But I
So,
don't know if we have anything better. I think it might be the safest. I mean, remember also the advantage of Bishop E4 is what does it do? It pins the knight to the
yeah.
bishop. That means what are they threatening here? There's actually a concrete threat after Bishop E4.
Uh, is it not? Hold on.
It has to do with the knight being pinned.
Right, the knight's pinned. I mean, um, I can see how they can add pressure via Queen A7, bringing the knight on D7. But
Well, remember, what's the principal thing Black would like to achieve if he could?
let's see. Well, wait, what do you mean?
Like in the whole line, there's been this sort of this reoccurring theme for Black, and as far as the pattern, the move that we've been calculating a lot, and one of the only risks behind it before was that we could take it, but now, so you see what I'm saying? He's
I have no clue what
he's
you're
well,
talking.
he's threatening E5. So the point is,
Well,
if you don't get castled, he just plays E5. Now you can't even touch the pawn because you lose a piece, and he immediately chops on A3.
okay.
So that means, so what I was saying, I think castles make sense because I don't know that we have any better options in dealing with E5.
Hmm.
Castles kills two birds with one stone. It gets the king to safety and it protects the bishop. So at the very least, we can deal with this.
Okay.
So if they go for this, this is a game. I mean, this is a good game. I think we have lots of plans here. We have rook e1. We
Yeah.
have relocations of the knight to one of the center squares you talked about.
Mhm.
I'm with you. I'm not thrilled about the fact that we probably will have to trade off these bishops at some point, which potentially leads to more weaknesses here.
Right.
But I don't know. It seems like that may be our best option because the other cold hard fact, hey, that's like brought to you by Coors Light. Man, we could get sponsors on this show. Do you have any hookups for the NFL advertising? No.
No, all I know is, hey man, I could use a drink.
Cold hard fact brought to you by Coors Light is that because the line we've committed to, we don't have a choice at this point. We're in this aggressive system, and I think there's no real way to prevent Bishop E4 here anyway.
Hmm.
And I do feel like it's the principled relocation of this bishop. It's sort of served its purpose to poke at our weaknesses. If Black is smart, they should relocate it and try to play on this battery and force us to challenge it later on. So So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That I like your move, Bishop G2. I got no qualms. Again, if we're reviewing the whole video and all the lessons we've talked about here, I think in critical review afterwards, I do feel like this is actually probably the slightly more accurate approach. Ultimately, this one falls on me because I chose my kids. I chose my kid's baseball game over my student.
How dare you?
How dare I, right? I mean, I didn't answer your text. You were texting me, and I actually felt bad because you were asking me about G4, and I was like, I don't know the position right now. I can't tell you. But I didn't want to say that. I was like, I'm in my kid's baseball game. Which I was. But anyway, so I think this just makes more sense for the reasons we've talked about. Preventing e5. By the way, it also puts us in a position where we probably would have been able to eliminate that bishop in a lot of lines instead of dealing with what we're dealing with now. But that doesn't mean we should be living in regrets. I think this position is completely dynamically equal. And it just means that, we have to be ready here. There are tactics coming with e5. There may be batteries with this. And we have to be ready. We have to be strong, man. Strong like bull. So now let's talk about the NFL now that this is over.
All right.
No, I'm kidding. Anyway, so what do you think? You feel like have we learned something here? Do you feel like you have a feel for the position? I feel good about what you calculated with e5. I think that if we're spending time over the next 48 hours, we should be looking at some positions with this. And hopefully, you and I have no engine help. Hopefully what we calculated with e5 is good. I feel good about it now.
Yeah.
Any other questions or points?
No, I'm gonna start looking at this more and start thinking about it more. I've been strapped the past couple days for football fans.
You got OTAs?
I've been in mini camp.
Mini camp?
Which is like 12-hour days, but that just finished.
Why do they do that to you? I mean, like, you're already like a physical specimen. Like, why do they make you guys do that? Seriously.
Toughness? I don't know.
Does it really like help when the season starts? Like, what do you think? It doesn't, does it? No, it does. Like, they could put you through a week of it right before the season starts and just like get you in shape. But maybe you're
through like 5 or 6 weeks of that before the season starts.
Yeah, like why? But you're like a pretty self-motivated dude, so you keep yourself pretty, in pretty good shape and in a pretty good frame of mind. Maybe they worry about other guys who, without the structure or and the pushing that they would, gain 50 pounds and be out all night partying or something. So without the structure of mini camps, maybe is that it? Maybe.
I don't know. Plus, it's good to. And preseason's long and it's a grind, and we don't really get paid like we should for preseason. But
right.
I mean, it's good because you get used to practicing together.
Right.
You get in football shape, which is actually extremely hard to train for or simulate.
Other than just doing it.
Right. But no, training camp's a little bit longer than I think it needs to be, but it is what it is.
Right. I feel so good about these talks we're having. This is like so great.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, you're going to start working on Bishop E4. I'm going to be on better call for you. Okay, this weekend. We probably won't get to another video session until Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, that's cool. But
we're going to be in communication. We're going to be rocking.
Until like the end of July. My schedule is like open. So this should be good.
All right, let's see if Matt has a Chess.com account. Tell him I'll give him a free Diamond membership for a while in exchange for me calling him out about his lack of a job in the NFL currently.
Whoa, you're throwing out Diamond memberships like they're candy right now?
You don't have a why don't you have a Diamond membership? I'll just give you a Diamond membership.
I'm ready for one.
All right. Okay, you get one too. Just get Matt. I'm like the Oprah of Diamond memberships right now. You get a Diamond membership, and you get a Diamond membership. All right, man. Well, we're gonna say goodbye to the viewers. Encourage everybody. Click the link right here, the one I'm pointing to. Click the link and go sign up. Join the world. Cast your vote. Get involved in the forum. It's pretty active. A lot of people just go crazy on each other during these vote chess games. It's kind of entertaining to watch if you're into that kind of thing.
Also, that if you're looking at the position and it's looking a little, scary for you, there's a resign button.
That's right.
Well, right.
There's a resign. It's a little flag. So there's a resign button. Just resign. The more of you guys vote for resigning. If
it's in your heart,
in your heart, then do it. All right. Well, seriously, buddy, good talk again. We learned some stuff. I feel like I have a pretty good feel for the position, and I'm right there with you. It's scary. We are in uncharted waters. We need to have our A game focus on, be ready to calculate tactics, and here we go.
All right, let's do it.
All right.